We have an article here from Gamespot, how Destiny 2 is ditching season for less predictable episodes. Season in which developers discuss dealing with the seasonal model becoming predictable, telling a story with a known ending and the 15th wish. This is from Phil Hornshaw on January the 29th, which is the day. Let's read it. Destiny 2 Season in the Wish is the last time Bungie will use its seasonal content, switching instead to a new episodic story format between its major expansions. Part of that change is a response to feedback from players that after 4 years, the seasonal approach of weekly short story missions have become stale. Each season's story followed a model that Destiny fans started to expect and anticipate. And while Destiny 2's seasonal stories have largely been thoughtful and engaging, they're also getting repetitive in their structure. Speaking for the narrative team, we hear our audience loud and clear that the structure of our story may have become predictable, even if the story quality is still high, said lead narrative designer John Leteau during a roundtable discussion in the Season of the Wish. We're working on a number of things right now that we can't explicitly share, but that involves changing up the structure so that we can pleasantly surprise you guys more frequently in the future. So instead of 4 seasons per year, each covering about 10 weeks, although sometimes more when expansions are delayed, the year after Destiny 2's next expansion, The Final Shape, we'll see the periodic release of 3 episodes. Each episode will be broken into 3 acts with larger chunks of story to go with new weapons and armor, activities, and the other content that seasons have included. I need to make a comment too on the whole, the story is predictable. You know what makes a story predictable? When you're in the beginning of a season starts and you're like, all right, you're given the task to start doing things to gain access to the Traveler. But then we've already watched trailers, multiple trailers and vidocs of us getting inside of the Traveler, right? And so it's like the punchline has already been delivered. But then go past that. Sometimes it's not about the punchline. Sometimes it is just about the delivery. The delivery, at least seasonally, has been stretched. It's been these micro little jumps in the stories, rich in lore, of course, but micro little jumps that gets us closer and closer to the punchline that we already know. I think the last time we had a really cool punchline slash like, oh my God, like this stuff's really going down. And I don't like the Destiny content vaults, but when the pyramid ships showed up and we had that live event, that was cool. I liked how they swooped in and we were all sitting there together experiencing that live event about to occur. And that was a nice experience. And Bungie also did it with the Almighty crashing. You know, some of the best things Bungie has done in the past, though, is by bringing us as a community and making us work together. So that with the Corridors of Time, we saw that with Niobe Labs. We've seen them with live events too. Yes, was it kind of boring sitting there and watching the Almighty get closer and closer to us for 2.5 hours? It was. You know, because we're like, all right, is it going to get it? Is it going to hit us? But it was cool, man. It was Bungie experimenting with live events. And I think it was fantastic. And Bungie's they kind of veered away from that. They don't do live events anymore. But back to this, they're saying that essentially episodes will give us more girth per expansion of content, right? Rather than having things just kind of, you know, spaced out over 4 separate seasons, we're going to have them over 3 seasons, which means episode is supposed to contain more content. But while Bungie has provided some information about the episode format, it still isn't spoiling too many details as to how they'll work. The developers did note that they are trying to find ways to keep things fresh, though. Senior narrative designer Nikki Stevens explained that part of the problem with the predictability of recent seasons is due to dealing with live game developments. A repeated structure gives Bungie a baseline to follow, allowing the studio to create content more efficiently over time and get it out to players at a consistent clip. You get better at a pattern the more often you do it. But that can have unintended side effects, like making content feel predictable. When you create a framework for how content should be made, it makes it easier to produce that content quickly because everyone's on the same page, but it can also be predictable because everyone's on the same page, he explained. So injecting more variability into those frameworks is something that we've been talking about and learning about. Again, man, I know it's hard with data miners, but you remember when the Whisper mission dropped? Y'all remember how big of a surprise that was? Was that, I don't even know if the Whisper mission was data mined, but like when the Whisper mission was dropped, when Corridors of Time happened, when Niobe Lab happened, like these were just like, oh my God, these were big surprises. And you know, the Whisper mission especially was just random. Like it was just so random. I don't even know if it was Tuesday or even a reset day. Just people started saying, hey, go to IO. And suddenly like Les and I we're at IO, we're looking, and then boom, we're thrown into a mission. And it's that stuff, man, that was so exciting. The Whisper mission was already in the game. Someone found it by accident. Oh, so it was a random Friday Friday. Okay. Yeah, man. So it's things like that, would you say that, Warmind or that expansion was of predictable nature? Maybe. I mean, it's a good expansion, but the point is that mission alone defined that season or defined that time of Destiny for me. And when we talk about Niobe Labs and Quarters of Time, those are things that define those times. Now, the balance between building frameworks that speed up development, but making sure the game doesn't become too predictable isn't just a story problem either, design lead Brian Frank added. Those frameworks that we're talking about are a survival skill for us as developers who are on the tight timelines, Frank said. We've identified that across disciplines, that's the main danger of them, that they become predictable. We talk frequently about surprises and delighters. It's something that comes up as terminology in discussions about what we're planning for surprises and delighters, making sure that we've covered that player expectation. With Season of the Wish, Bungie had another challenge to deal with, the final shape. The Season of the Wish's story concerns the Destiny characters' efforts to find a way through a giant spooky portal created by the game's major antagonist, the Witness. But trailers for the final shape have made it clear that players will get through the portal, making the season story a foregone conclusion. Well, let me just say this too. Again, yes, the punchline was ruined. We know we're going to get inside the Traveler. We don't know how. We didn't know how. And then it turns out it was through Crow, and it all makes sense lore-wise because his connection with Mora and her ability to stay connected with them while he's inside of the Traveler. The issue with that was even that storyline got leaked, not by leakers, but by Bungie themselves. They had the wrong text there, and there was a text there that was like, instead of us waiting to have that moment with Crow, it was like, wait a minute, we already know Crow's going to be the one that's going to be sent into enemy territory or inside of the Traveler where enemies are. And so that was already ruined. So the delivery there is extremely important, and considering how big of a delivery that was going to be, I felt like that was ruined. Now, since Bungie reveals information about the expansions well ahead of the release, this isn't the first season the narrative team has worked on with an ending players can see coming. Writing a satisfying story with its ending already known meant recalibrating its focus to be on the characters and the relationship, Steven said. Yes, we saw that with Rasputin. When Rasputin died, that was an emotional moment there, and I thought that was delivered great. Did we see the writing on the wall? Yeah, we knew Warmind cells were literally leaving. Why would Warmind cells leave? Well, Rasputin was dying, right? But the scene there with Anna and Rasputin was great. I had the pleasure of working on all of those seasons that have the ending reveal for the DLC. It is difficult to not have that climactic moment at your disposal, he said, but you have to change your perspective a little bit on how you're telling that story. I think if you don't view that final season, despite it being the final season of the year or of a year, as an ending and more as like a ramp into the DLC, it structurally starts to make more sense as you're creating it, because really you're treating that DLC, Witch Queen or Lightfall or the final shape, as that climactic moment that all of this has been leading to. That is true. The final season leading to an annual expansion has always been the ramp, and then that ending or that narrative thread that gets satisfied will be satisfied or should be satisfied in the annual expansion. This is also why Lightfall was a problem, because it didn't satisfy really anything, right? So in terms of, yeah, we know we're going through the portal and we're going to go confront the Witness at some point, but we didn't know about Tyrannus, and we didn't know that Mara was going to change her mind about keeping her hands wrapped tightly around Crow as possible, and we didn't know that Riven was going to be a lot more amenable than she probably previously could have been. So I think to call back to telling those smaller stories relating to the characters, making sure that that step into the final shape feels meaningful because all these characters that you have been fighting towards that goal with are right next to you. I think those are the things we try and focus on more. Despite not having much in the way of a climactic moment in Season of the Wish, Bungie did take the opportunity to tie off some plot threads that have been dangling for years. One of those was the 15th Wish, a story element the Destiny 2 community has been wondering about since the Forsaken expansion launched in 2018 with its raid, The Last Wish. The 15th Wish is related to Riven, the final boss of the raid, and one of the Ahamkara, the strange, powerful, wish-granting creatures that populate some corners of Destiny 2's lore. When the raid was launched, players discovered 14 different wishes, essentially cheat codes that they could enter into the Wall of Wishes hidden in the raid. But while Destiny 2 alluded to the 15th Wish, it remained a mystery until the Season of the Witch finally revealed it near the end of 2023. The 15th Wish is something that we've been talking about for a long time, and it's been one of those things that's on the back burner where there are plans for it, or ideas, I should say, rather than plans, Steven said. And it's something that has been in the back of our minds for a long time, and we were just waiting for the best opportunity to bring that forward. Let me just talk on the 15th Wish. Are you guys satisfied with like how the 15th Wish was delivered? I love Season of the Witch. I love the setup. You know, we went through the Embaro engine. We had to discover those puzzles. The issue is that none of that mattered in the grand scheme of things to unlocking the 15th Wish. When it really boiled down to it, the 15th Wish was just handed to us, right? There was no community puzzle. And I thought this was gearing up to be some huge community puzzle. And that did not take place. We had the Embargo engine, but you could have just skipped that, picked up Season of the Witch, and got right into the content, no problem. You didn't have to go through the Embargo engine. You didn't have to do any of those things. Am I right in this? Did you have to do the Embargo engine at all? Mike says, I didn't play the last season at all, but you've been able to jump in, right? Access to the 15 wish, all that stuff. That's the issue that I had with it. It was like, all right, why did we go through all that stuff? Why did we do all that puzzle? To know that there was going to be a 15 wish? Okay. To know that we're going to get access to lore, see a cutscene? That's cool. But in the grand scheme of things, it mattered not. There was no community puzzle in this. And considering how big of a deal the 15 wish actually was, I felt the delivery here really flopped. The lore explains everything Savlin wanted us to find, the 15 wish. I know. So you're saying that Savadun was like, hey, I'm going to make you go through all this Embargo engine bullshit for you to discover. And guess what? All the heavy lifting is going to be done in a cutscene. Look at this. We get one cutscene where our character is suddenly breaking out hieroglyphics and discovering the 15th wish. You're telling me we couldn't be a part of that? That's not us. Why couldn't we do that as a community? But our guardian was like, I got this. Off script, I got this. Let's see. What else have we done off script? Let's kill Sagira. Off script, I got this. I'm not saying that our guardian doesn't have the capacity to handle these things. I'm just saying that it would have been nice as a community, considering the puzzles we have been given previously, to have been challenged by Bungie to discover these things. One of the struggles of live game development, just said, was the ideas sometimes have to wait. You don't always get to do everything you want to do right away. He said it takes a lot of collaboration. It takes the right timing. It takes the right release to have the right move for doing an idea that you've had for a long time. The community is also extremely fickle. They bitch a lot. They moan a lot, especially the ones in Aztecross' stream. They're constantly bitching and moaning about God knows what. Now, bringing back the 15 wish wasn't something Bungie did on a whim, though. There was a lot of caution there about what it would mean to revisit the 15 wish and sort of how high the stakes were to pay that off for the players, Frank said. And so, yeah, I love how this came together. And it was something that was given life by the community in a lot of ways and sort of fourth wall breaking for us to weave it back in. There's the example of the Loot Cave in Grasp of Avarice, where the community's interest in that topic sort of drove us to bring it back into the story of Destiny in a way that I think is really satisfying for the players to feel almost like a part of it. That really was good. I love that that's the beginning of Grasp of Avarice dungeon, right? But while the Season of the Wish brought answers to some long-standing Destiny 2 questions, it opened up new possibilities as well. The final shape will conclude the story Destiny started when it launched back in 2014, now called the Light and Darkness Saga, where there are plot threads that will carry into the future, like those that will feed into the game upon upcoming episodes. I do wonder what the hell is going to happen after all this. You know, are we going to have Destiny Civil War, where it's like a Guardians, we have a light tower and a dark tower. We're intermixing things now, but there comes a point where it's like, no, the dark is too much. What if after we kill the Witness, some of the Guardians, Ikora comes down, it's like, no, we don't need the darkness now. We've killed the Witness. We've done it. You need to let go of those paracausal powers, right? But then Shaxx is like, hey, no, I'm not letting go of the Strand. It would be like a Warlords situation. I don't know, something to think about. Though the season in which took players back to the Dreaming City and dealt with characters related to the time-living curse that first befell the location at the end of the Last Wish raid, the curse is still in place. Even though Riven, the curse's creator, is once again dead and gone. The Ahamkar's wish is so powerful that nothing Destiny 2's character have yet found can break it. But that's a story Bungie can still address in the future, Toast said. There are two extra plot threads that Season 23 left us with, which are that Riven and Tyrannus have children. They are the most obvious route for other Ahamkar stories should we choose to pursue them in the future, he said. There's also a couple of characters in our cast like Petra and Crow who still care a lot about the Corsairs that are stuck in the Dreaming City's curse, who might one day need something as powerful as an Ahamkar to help them. We have some idea where Destiny 2's story is heading in the final shape, but we know a lot less about where that story is headed afterward, whether in this year's episodes or beyond. Season of the Wish highlights that there are a lot of stories Bungie has yet to tell in Destiny 2, leaving a lot of possibilities for the future. I will say there are mainly things to wrap up. We need to figure out how they're going to wrap up the Vex. We need to figure out how Xivu or Wrath is going to get wrapped up, since she is not going to be involved, or at least not going to be involved in a major way with the Witness in the final shape, which is unfortunate. And then, yeah, Ahamkar, I don't know. Maybe we have a Dragon's Riders season or episode, and we get our own pet Ahamkar. I want more than 9. And oh, that dude, we completely forgot about that. There's still the 9. Who, by the way, I trust the 9 less than I do the Witness. I don't trust the 9 for shit. The fact that they're just kind of like hanging around too, like, I don't know. I feel like they're just waiting to stab us in the back at some point.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.